All right, I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission special meeting, June 30th, 2020, 7:07 p.m. This is a web-based meeting hosted by Zoom. We have two public hearings this evening. The first is Shelley Woods, LLC, Tim Draper, 9 units, Connecticut State Statute 8-30G, Affordable Housing, 47 Shelley Road, and I'll read the public notice. The Bethel Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on June 30, 2020 at 7 p.m. using the virtual platform Zoom to hear the application of Tim Draper, Shelley Woods, LLC, for an affordable housing application under Section 8-30G of the Connecticut State Statutes. The proposal is for 9 units to be located at 47 Shelley Road. This property can be found in the tax assessor's office as map 87, block 70, and lot 30. And I'm now going to turn this over to Beth because tonight's meeting is going to have a little bit different setup on how we're accepting comments from everyone. Beth, it's all yours.
Yes, what I just want to do is reaffirm to remind everyone to review the criteria that we've developed in order to keep the hearings on task. But more importantly, after conferring with Pat, we wanted to devise a plan to ensure that the first round of public comments are not lost in the discussions that will ensue after this hearing between the town and the applicant. Tonight is about presentations, the applicant, the town, and the public. Discussion will occur at future hearings. On another note, several members of the public submitted comments last night from 4:30 to midnight. Although the public notice says 24 hours prior to the meeting, we will revise it in the future to say when we're Zooming, to reflect the town hall hours. I apologize for anyone's disappointment, but be assured that they will be loaded in the drive tomorrow, and you can always read the letters tonight if you so wish. That's it. Pat, it's all yours.
All right, so the way we're running the meeting tonight is the applicant will present an overview of the project, and the applicant will have 20 minutes. Town staff will review the proposal, 20 minutes. And general comments from the public will be accepted. Please limit your comments to 2 or 3 minutes. And no other business will be conducted this evening but these 2 public hearings. All right, I will turn it over to Mr. Draper and your attorney.
Pat, before you do that, could you please read the public notice into the record?
I did.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you? The public, the legal notice.
I only have the public notice.
It has the legal notice.
That is the legal notice.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chairman, if it's okay, I'll proceed. For the record, Neil Marcus, Kona Wolf, PC 158, Deer Hill Avenue, Danbury, Connecticut, on behalf of Shelley Woods, LLC, the applicant. The public notice of the public hearing identifies the location of the property at 47 Shelley Road, and the fact that this is an application to create 9 units of housing in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes 8-30G, which is known as the Affordable Housing Act. And again, for the public that have not participated in 8-30G hearings and applications before, it's a little different in that the burden of the presentation actually shifts to the commission to identify issues of overriding public health and safety that outweigh the need for public housing, which conditions cannot be addressed with reasonable modifications to the plan or conditions of approval. So we're not going to spend a lot of time dealing with issues that are not related to the focal point of public health and safety. It's not about aesthetics. It's not about issues that do not impact health and safety. So basically we focus mostly on traffic, circulation of traffic, availability of water, sewer, and other public utilities that are necessary for housing. So, and again, to keep this moving along, I think we'll ask our project engineer, Steve Trinkus, to put up on the screen a description of what the project is and run through it and touch on it very, as an outline very briefly. The detailed information is contained in the reports and the drawings that are on file with the commission and have been since the application was originally submitted. So with that in mind, we will proceed with Steve, if you can address and put up and show the commission and the public what the plan is.
For the record, Steve Trinkus, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of Connecticut, representing Shelley Woods LLC. I designed this project. The site is 7.96 acres located on the east side of Shelley Road, almost at the end of the pavement. It was part of a 4-lot subdivision done, I believe, in the early 2000s. The site does have wetlands on it. The wetlands had been originally flagged by a soil scientist. They were inspected and verified with a couple minor modifications by Eric Davison, a certified soil scientist. We had previously 2 applications before the Wetlands Commission and went through exhaustive reviews by Todd Ritchie at Wright Pierce at the time, and now with Milo and McBroom, which resulted in an approval by the Bethel Wetlands Commission earlier this year for regulated activities for the project itself. Starting at the bottom of the hill, Shelley Road is at the bottom. The driveway is about midway in our frontage. It curves in and goes up the hill. The topography is fairly steep on the site, and there's really a limited pathway for any access up to the top of the hill where the units are shown. At the bottom of the hill, there is a stormwater management system, one of 2. This is what's called a pocket pond to address peak rate attenuation and also provide additional water quality. Moving directly east along the southern boundary of the site, 3 of the septic systems for 3 duplexes are located here. There was over 35 test holes excavated on the site that were reviewed by the Bethel Health Department at the time we did them. All of the systems are sized. As an example of duplexes, 2 duplexes are each 2 bedrooms each. So each system here is sized for 4 bedrooms in total. They're all pump systems. This is in the southeast corner of the site. This is just showing the force mains coming across the top of the hill because the units are all located at the northern end of the site. Going back to the driveway, we come up, we go within the upland review area from wetlands, and we basically serpentine up the hill. There is grading, there are some retaining walls or potentially rock cuts at the time of construction. If we hit rock and it's stable, we would do a rock cut instead of building a retaining wall. The driveway has a 20-foot width, which is the minimum required for fire access under the fire code. The maximum grade of the driveway is 12%, which is allowable under the Bethel regulations. And the geometry is such that the smallest inside radius is 35 feet or larger, which means an emergency vehicle, an aerial truck can easily come up the driveway without any problem. The driveway continues up the hill as we get up to the north central portion of the site. That's where the residential development is actually proposed. On the left-hand side of the page is the 1 triplex unit. Again, these are 3-bedroom units. That septic system is directly to the southwest of it, located here. This again all does have select fill because of shallow bedrock. The other stormwater management practice is a bioretention system here in the basically center of the page. This takes the roof drains from all 4-unit buildings, will infiltrate the water. Any overflows go back to the conventional catch basin system on the driveway and ultimately goes down to the pocket pond at the bottom of the hill. The units themselves, as I said, there was a triplex and then 3 duplexes. There is one garage underneath. There's one parking space out in front. We have additional visitor parking and handicap parking on the site. We have grading shown. This is the cut into the hillside behind these two duplexes, C and D. And we have a curtain drain at the base of that slope to intercept water from the cut. And again, that will be conveyed to the drainage system. Septic tanks, pump chambers are also shown here. The limit of site clearing, which is the same as site disturbance, is this scallop line, this tree line symbol here as an example. Above the top of the cut, there is a grade to drain swale to intercept surface water that would come down from the hill above us. When the driveway comes up into the site, there is a large, pretty much open area exclusive of the parking that a emergency vehicle, particularly the aerial truck, which is typically the longest vehicle in the fire department's arsenal, will be able to come up, fight a fire, turn around, and simply drive back the driveway. It would not have to back down the driveway at all. There is a comprehensive erosion and sedimentation control with construction sequence for all the work to be done in phases to minimize the site disturbance. Like as I said before, it had been reviewed multiple times by Todd during the wetlands applications. This shows a little bit better view of the triplex and the three duplexes and the wide open driveway area. We have 3 visitor parking spaces here. We also have 2 handicap spaces, and each unit has 2 spaces, one in the garage, one in front of the garage doors, which is common. As part of the application, we have a plan and profile showing the vertical geometry of the driveway. Again, the maximum grade is 20%, which is what is allowed by the town's regulations. In some cases, along the driveway, we have a guardrail, which will be a timber post type guardrail, where we may have a cut or a fill, and we don't want anybody driving off the driveway. All of our soil data, cross sections for all the systems. Instead of showing general suitability, all of these have been fully designed so they could actually have a permit for tomorrow. As each building is served by its own septic system, each building is also served by its own well that is located at least 75 feet from any septic system. So there is no community water system, there is no community septic system, as each structure is served by its own well and septic for this. We had the watershed maps at Todd's request through the wetlands application, and then we have our construction narrative. And that's really the basis of my presentation. I will go back to one of the site plans in case there's any particular questions.
Thank you, Steve.
Neil, do you have something else?
Yeah, I was just wondering if we're still, we're going to leave that up on the screen. I just very briefly, the only thing to mention is that we have filed a proposed affordability plan, which will have a 40-year covenant to set aside 30% of the units as affordable or housing opportunity units that are based on either 80% or 60% earners under the measured by the state median income, since the Danbury area median income is generally slightly higher, so that we will go out, we'll use the state median income for determination. With the affordability plan is a method of calculation, and what the methodology is for seeing if someone is qualified. And then of course, the administrator has to review the financials and sign off and submit that to the town, that the units are owned or rented, as the case may be, by people who are qualified, and that the pricing has been determined in accordance with the same formula based on the income of the occupant. So other than that, as Steve has said, we spent a lot of time in wetlands in 2 applications going through site drainage and layout, and all of that's been pretty well vetted, at least by the Inland Wetlands Commission. Obviously, there's overlapping jurisdiction between planning and zoning and inland wetlands, but the planning and zoning review is based on public health and safety. And it's not conceivable or too easily conceivable that there are issues in the inland wetlands approval that would have presented public health or safety issues for the Planning and Zoning Commission. But at this point, if anything is identified, we would certainly review it. But from our perspective, we couldn't find anything. So we're gonna, at this point, rest with the presentation and of course, listen to any questions and try to answer them for both the commission and the public. Thank you, Pat.
Neil, just in case I missed this, were all 5 questions from Tom Galliford's email addressed?
I'm not sure I have that email handy. Do we, unfortunately, not having my file in the office. I believe we answered them, but if we didn't, are there ones that you think that were not?
Well, I'm just not sure that they were all covered. I'll ask other commission members who are sitting here, if you have that email in front of you, were all of these 5 questions addressed?
Maybe Beth could throw that up on the screen.
What we can do is we can discuss that at the next hearing
Okay,
as far as Tom Galliford's, because hopefully what will happen is that anything that's been submitted tonight, a written response will be received by the applicant.
okay.
That would be our intention.
Thanks,
But,
Neil.
Yeah, if they haven't been addressed, they will be.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point,
You want to go?
we had
No,
not,
Steve
I had
has-
not received an email at all, so I do not know what Tom asked and therefore cannot answer anything at this point.
Okay.
Thank you,
Well,
Steve.
it's in the drive, the Google Drive that's associated with this meeting.
Okay.
Under town comments, there's 3 folders, I believe: applicant, town comments, and public comments. And anytime we receive anything in writing, we just load it up on the drive.
Well, we, as the applicant's representative, none of that information was provided to us. It was on the link, so I did not look at the link.
Okay.
We'll go back and check it. We'll do it.
Thank you.
Okay. And as Beth said, we can address it at the next meeting.
Absolutely.
All right. As this is a public hearing, I will now turn this over to the public.
No, excuse me, Pat. I'm sorry to interrupt. Next in line would be town comments, and I'll take the lead on that and then
Oh,
turn
all
it
right.
over to Todd Ritchie, if that's okay.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay. So anything that I've submitted, you'll see there's a package in the drive. It's an original history of the property pertaining to it. Some of the commission members that are presently on the board are familiar with it, and I think you took part in the actual subdivision approval back in 2005 in regards to that. So I gave you the same documentation that I gave the inland wetlands before. In regards to what we're working on now, as far as being an 830G application versus the extensive amount of time that Inland Wetlands spent on this application, I have to say that the Wetlands Commission is very good at concentrating their efforts and review on anything pertaining to the wetlands in the 100-foot upland review area. So therefore, I think our consulting engineers did a good job in staying focused on that portion of the application with the Wetlands Commission. But I will remind this commission that this is the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that you have worked with many different 830G applications in the past, and that engineering is part of it, dealing with the health, safety, and welfare of those that will be residing on the premises and those that are adjacent to it. That being said, I don't want to take up a lot of the time, but I do want to request that the commission consider doing a site walk and listening to Mr. Trinkus's presentation and also listening to Mr. Ritchie's comments, that you determine when you want to take a site walk, what you would like to see staked in the field, and you do that during the public hearing process. And we'll make arrangements with that after this presentation is over with.
Thank
And
you,
I'll
Beth.
turn it over to Todd.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Great. For the record, my name is Todd Ritchie. I'm a professional engineer with Mylona McBroom. I was asked to review this application on behalf of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and as has been mentioned, I've previously reviewed this application a couple of times on behalf of the Inland Wetlands Commission as well. And as Beth mentioned, those previous reviews were primarily focused to anything that was affected in the upland review area of wetlands and not the broader site, as is now under the jurisdiction of or purview of the Planning and Zoning Commission. David, were you jumping in?
Todd, would you like to have screen sharing capabilities if you want to look at the plans to help guide your comments?
That's fine. I think right now, just because this is actually my first Zoom call and I'm using 2 different computers to make this happen, I don't want to get bogged down with trying to do anything right off the bat.
Would it help you if I screen shared for you and walk through the plans that way?
Sure. I mean, there's not really a sequential development on my part as far as my comments go.
Okay.
But if you feel like you want to stop me at any time, ask questions or make comments and zoom in on areas of the plans, that would be fine.
Okay.
So as part of my review, I prepared a peer review letter dated today, June 30th, submitted to Beth, Planning and Zoning Director, and we reviewed the site development plans prepared by Steve Trinkus, dated March 31st, 2020, which was the latest revision. Stormwater management report also prepared by Steve, dated February 5th, 2020, and the architectural plans that were prepared prepared and dated November 30th, 2016. See here. I did go over some existing conditions of the site. Perhaps I can just kind of read through and give you my overview of the site and maybe supplement anything that Steve might have just kind of buzzed through. Again, this is a approximately 8-acre undeveloped site. It's located on the east side of Shelley Road in a residential 80,000 square foot zone adjacent to existing single-family residential parcels to the north, south, and west, and an open space parcel to the east. The site is located within the Limekiln Brook watershed and is moderately and steeply sloped from the eastern portion or property line to Shelley Road. On-site drainage patterns generally convey stormwater runoff towards the north and south near Shelley Road, with runoff ultimately entering the existing storm drain systems in Shelley Road. The parcel is located outside any public water supply aquifer protection areas and just outside of an area identified by the Natural Diversity Database as a general location for state and federally listed species and significant natural communities. The upland soils on the site have been identified by the United States Department of Agriculture Soil Survey as Paxton and Montauk and Charlton Chatfield Complex, which are sandy loam soils. There are 4 on-site wetland areas which have been field delineated by soil scientists. Proposed conditions, the development proposal includes the construction of 4 buildings housing 9 two-bedroom residential units, including on-site water supply wells, septic systems, and approximately 850 linear foot 2-lane common access driveway, parking areas, and stormwater drainage, bioretention, and detention systems. The access driveway is proposed to be connected to Shelley Road. All proposed construction is located outside of wetlands within portions of the driveway, septic systems, and drainage systems located within the 100-foot upland review areas of wetlands. Regarding drainage patterns, the site development plan will result in runoff that currently reaches Shelley Road flowing to the south, being redirected into the storm drain system in Shelley Road that flows towards the north. The stormwater analysis provided by the applicant and design engineer concludes that there will be reductions in peak stormwater discharge rates from the property for the 2, 10, and 25-year storm events, and essentially 0 increase in peak stormwater discharge for a 100-year storm event. The engineer's analysis also concludes that the town's drainage system in Shelley Road has adequate capacity to convey the stormwater flows that will be directed to the system during these storm events. Sediment and erosion control measures are provided, which include silt barriers around drain inlets and along the limits of disturbance, and a stabilized construction entrance at Shelley Road. So based on our review of the application documents received, we offer the following comments for consideration by the commission and the applicant. First, this is just kind of a standard comment that I make, especially in light of COVID and digital submissions and or hard copies. Now with everybody receiving essentially digital submissions and limitations to folks being able to get hard copies from town halls, it makes sense to have all of the copies of the engineering documents signed and sealed and submitted for record, and those seals and signatures included in the PDF copies. Also, that applies to an existing condition survey plan. I haven't seen that submitted as part of this set, which should be signed and sealed by a Connecticut licensed surveyor. The architectural drawings were excluded drawings for proposed 3-unit building, and they also had dimensions for the footprints that were larger than the footprint dimensions on the site plan. So they didn't correlate to those dimensions. And in fact, the 2-unit buildings that were shown on the site plans were approximately 30% smaller than the footprint of the 2-bedroom units that were included in the architectural plans. The first floor elevations shown for the buildings on the site plans appear to be mislabeled, and that could be resolved. It just that it appears the first floor is 10 foot higher than garage level, and that's obviously just something for consistency. The architectural drawings show the buildings will have basements, so footing, drainage pipes, and discharge locations should be shown. It's unclear which building units have handicap accessibility. There are a couple of handicap parking spaces shown, and how will access be provided to those units. The architectural drawings show that there's going to be front porches and steps and different things that will need to be traversed by and have handicap accessibility. We recommend a wheel stop is included, and for one of the spaces that abuts one of the buildings, just so there's no contact by a vehicle when it's parking in that space with the building. And the curbing at the rear of these spaces should also be removed, currently shown and there, and also the grading across the spaces should comply with ADA requirements. We noted that there's a walkway missing for one of the units, which is unit 2. Also, doesn't appear to be enough travel space in front of the dumpster location for a garbage vehicle or recycling vehicle to actually access that without and have maneuverability in front of that space. So to take a look at that and possibly relocate that or reorient it. Transformer location looks like it's kind of close to the roadway. Just want to make sure there's no issues with any contact with vehicles or interference with snow removal or equipment that may be providing snow removal. The proposed water supply well locations, they should be shown on the individual site plan sheets. The only place that I could see those were located was on, I think, the front, the cover sheet. Proposed grading there's a couple of swales that are noted to be graded to drain, but certainly that grading can be shown on the plans so that it's be able to be determined where they discharge ultimately, and to prevent impacts, particularly on the leaching system A and buildings A and B, and a water supply well and pavement areas near those buildings. There's right now a swale that discharges in that area, and the drainage system should be extended, and the swale discharged to a catch basin in the grass lawn area, just so that there's no water dumping into any of those areas affecting any of those features or structures, and also not discharging onto the pavement. Catch basins are recommended to be added at the top of the access driveway. Right now, all the open pavement at the top of the access driveway funnels down to the access driveway. So it's better to cut that off before it gets down to the access driveway, which is graded up to 12%. There's a drainage pipe shown along the access driveway that's actually shown curved, and that's not how it will be installed. So additional structures will be needed to make that alignment along the curvature of the proposed driveway. Appears a retaining wall section is missing, a location on the driveway that will need, it's currently labeled, but it's not visible, so that will need to be added. Couple of comments from my previous review just also have carried over into this review. Some of my final comments were regarding drainage, where previous review being when it was in the inland wetlands review. The emergency spillway section shown on sheet 11 needs to be revised so that the bottom of the riprap at the spillway is at elevation 485, because that's the elevation the water will be flowing through the riprap and out of the basin to the voids in the riprap. And also, in accordance with the Connecticut Stormwater Quality Manual, it's noted that ledge may be encountered in the pocket pond area, and it should be provided with any areas that have ledge. There should be a minimum of 3 feet of soil provided over the ledge, or alternately an impermeable membrane should be installed so that there's no infiltration of stormwater into the bedrock prior to receiving treatment by the soil.
Excuse me, Todd. I'm
Sure.
trying to keep us all on the same task, and I don't want us to be the first offenders. I'm going to ask you to move on down to when you speak about the common access driveway.
Absolutely, sure. So moving on down to the common access driveway, number 31 on my reviewed letter. The proposed common access driveway will essentially support simultaneous two-way vehicle traffic entering and exiting the property to access the residential units. The access driveway has been designed to function as a low-density roadway, including horizontal and vertical curvature, cross-pitch curbing, and stormwater drainage. For safety considerations, Malone and McBroom recommends that the commission review the access driveway per Town of Bethel subdivision regulations roadway design criteria as follows. Per the regulations road standards, the minimum pavement width for a low-density roadway is 27 feet, and the maximum road grade is 10% unless otherwise approved by the commission. The proposed roadway pavement width is 20 feet, and the maximum proposed roadway grade is 12%, which are less than the minimum and beyond the maximum requirements, respectively, for a subdivision road that would similarly serve the same number of residential units. Due to the proposed slope and geometry of the access driveway, additional roadway width and reduced roadway slope may be necessary to allow for safe stopping site distances. Per the regulations, subdivision regulations as well, proposed roads shall intersect existing roads at right angles for a distance of at least 100 feet from the intersecting road line, unless otherwise approved by the commission. The proposed access driveway is shown intersecting Shelley Road at a radius without any right angle distance. Right angle distance is important to allow for field of vision while approaching a roadway intersection, to be able to respond to the oncoming stop sign and to oncoming vehicles entering the driveway at the intersection into the opposing vehicle lane. And also per subdivision regulations, proposed roads shall intersect other roads such that the slope of the travelway on the proposed roads shall not exceed 2% within 50 feet of the intersection unless otherwise approved by the commission on the recommendation of the town engineer. The site plans show the slope of the proposed access driveway is approximately 6 to 10.5% within 50 feet of the intersection at Shelley Road. The applicant's engineer should confirm that the necessary safe vehicle stopping distance is provided for the proposed driveway grades. The applicant's engineer should submit calculations, this is the next point, for upgrading and downgrading stopping site distances for the proposed two-lane, two-way access driveway, and show the sight lines on the plans to ensure the proposed horizontal and vertical roadway geometry will allow for safe vehicle stopping conditions based on the proposed vehicle design speed. The appropriate stopping sight distance should be calculated in accordance with the Connecticut Department of Transportation Highway Design Manual. It appears that various proposed trees, split rail fence, and retaining walls will likely interfere with sight lines for safe vehicle stopping, along with the vehicle guide rail that will need to be included at various locations along the driveway. And then next, and my final comment is vehicle guide rail should be designed along the shoulders of the access, and shown along the shoulders of the access driveway where downward slopes are steeper than 4 foot horizontal to 1 foot vertical, and where the roadway is adjacent to a filled retaining wall. Roadway downward side slopes greater than 4 foot horizontal to 1 foot vertical are deemed unrecoverable per the United States Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration, and that they are slopes where an errant vehicle is unlikely to regain control by slowing or stopping prior to reaching the bottom of the slope. On the site plans, these locations generally include the south side of the access road between roadway stations 125 and 425, and the north side of the access road between roadway stations 50 and 300. Split rail fence and tree planting should be placed behind the guide rail. Guide rail required for slope safety should be included in the stopping sight distance analysis, where the placement of such a safety feature would interfere with sight lines.
Thank you, Todd. In regards to what Todd is reading to the commission, I just want the commission to know that written comments will be available to you up on the Google Drive tomorrow in regards to this. Katie, Pat, I think we can move on.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to thank Todd. That's a really comprehensive list of all the things that need to be fixed. I'm quite surprised it's so long. I'd like to, Beth, if you have nothing else you want to add at this moment, I'll move out to the public.
I would move to the public, Pat.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. If you want to ask a question, there's an ability in Zoom to raise your hand. David, does that need to be pointed out to everyone where it is?
I'm more than happy to describe it to you, and it actually depends on which device you are using. So if you are using a telephone to partake in this meeting, you will press *9. If you're using a phone or a tablet device, there is a toolbar at the bottom of the Zoom app where one of the options that pops up is participants. It's notated by 2 small people and a number of participants in the meeting, which at this time is 63. That number doesn't matter, but what does is clicking on that brings up the persons that are in this meeting, and if you click next to your name, it gives you an option to raise your hand. That is the way with which we will recognize that you have comments. Pat, I think when Todd Ritchie was speaking, the first person to indicate that they wanted to submit public comments was Abigail Formus. So I'm going to open the floor up to them first, unless there was someone else you saw that you would want to give comment to.
No, I didn't see any, but I just want to let Abigail know, and everyone else, try to limit your questions 2 to 3 minutes tops, and please give us your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. My name is Adam Formus, Formus, and I'm a Connecticut licensed attorney, and I'm also the son of Alina Formus, the owner of 49 Shelley Road. It used to be lot number 2, 47 Shelley Road. Unfortunately, this is the first we've ever heard of this project in this petition that's been under consideration, it appears, for quite a while. We've owned 49 Shelley Road, lot number 2, pursuant to the original subdivision. We purchased the property in 2006. And we are extraordinarily concerned about the prices, the value of our property, and the plummeting unmarketability of the property should this project go forward. With our property being directly adjacent to the proposed affordable housing project, there is not any chance that our property will ever be marketable for sale for purposes of being able to use the property. And I'm sure there are plenty of other Bethel citizens on the phone right now who own their own personal homes on Shelley Road who are also going to be similarly affected. So my questions are as follows. Has there been a study undertaken as to the values of the property on Shelley Road, that how they'll be affected by virtue of this program? Number two, has there been a study undertaken whether or not there's going to be an increase in crime, whether there's going to be an increase in police use, police availability pursuant to affordable housing? It's very clear, the statistics show that affordable housing always increases crime rates in the area and depresses property values. So those are our concerns, which I will provide in writing because I just found out about this, but I thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Okay, Adam, I know you're discussing 49 Shelley Road, but what is your personal address?
He has,
Hello, can you hear me?
yes.
I live at 18 Maguran Drive, Magauran, in Stafford, Connecticut. Like I said, I'm a Connecticut licensed attorney, and I just found out about this literally a couple of days ago. So I'm going to be looking into this a little bit more, and I'll be presenting my views in writing to the Planning and Zoning Commission relative to the two studies that I believe should be undertaken, which is an effect to property values and effect on whether or not it's going to increase crime rates for the city of Bethel.
All right, thank you. And just to let everyone know, we'll take all questions and then the applicant will respond to all the questions at one time.
Okay, next we have Erin O'Marra.
Hello, this is Brendan O'Marra sitting with Erin. For the record, we live at 43 Shelley Road in Bethel. This is the adjacent property, directly sharing a property line with a site under consideration. I would first like to second previous comments from Mr. Formus. We were going to ask, as part of overall health for a family, I think financial health is a consideration. And I do believe our property value would decrease as a result of this development. And I wanted to know how the Planning and Zoning Commission would address that, or if they would address that. Primarily our concerns though are around water quality and safety. As follows, the pocket pond has been designed to handle runoff from roofs, from driveways. And we know that there will also be a couple of considerations with the driveways, not only vehicle runoff, and I know in wetlands it's been addressed about hydrocarbons in soil and what happens, but there are other toxic chemicals, antifreeze, other things that can run into the water systems. In addition, there's going to be salt on such a steep driveway in the wintertime usage. I doubt they're going to be able to get it cleared without it. The pocket pond lies directly adjacent to the property line where our well is. All right, we have a relatively shallow well. Our well, if memory serves, and we can easily look it up at the town hall, is between 140 and 150 feet deep. All right, if we talk about water sitting on top of the aquifer right above our well that could be potentially laced with a ton of contaminants, I'm very concerned about the health of my children and myself and my wife in this instance. Also, we know there's gotta be, if you've walked Shelley Road at all, there's gonna be some blasting somewhere. And the blasting can change water tables. The blasting can leach contaminants into water systems. And this is an extensive project. This is not one foundation for a home. In addition, I believe the initial presentation from the applicant's engineer talked about one well per unit. So not only are we talking about potential contaminants adjacent to and nearly on top of the area where our well is drawing water from, but now we have to think about drilling at least 4 wells in the area, tapping into the same water system. So I'm wondering if that, or there's any consideration that planning and zoning takes into account with regard to the ability of the water system because just to supply that many people. I don't want to make any generalizations, but I would guess in some of these types of units, people might exceed the normal limit of 2 people in 2 bedrooms, right? I mean, how many people are we talking about? How many potential vehicles are we talking about for runoff? It's going to be a good number of people using a large amount of water and creating a large amount of pollution. And lastly, but by no means least, I realize that the septic system, if you look at our property line, the grade runs on an angle. The biggest part of the septic system is directly uphill of our well. I have confidence that the applicant and his engineer have probably built many systems before. I think systems that run through normal leaching fields are probably fine. on level property, but I sat through all the planning and wetlands meetings. I heard Mr. Trinkus say at least a dozen times, water knows how to go one way and that's downhill. If I have a bunch of big septic systems uphill of my well, I'm not confident that the filtering is going to be sufficient, that some runoff isn't coming down into my property, either hitting that directly above where my well is, or even eventually getting into that pocket pond as well. So again, just to summarize, home values was our, we were just reiterating what Mr. Formus had said, but we really have a lot of concerns about the health and safety of our family related to water quality. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have Rob and Emily Geary.
Hi, everyone. This is Rob and Emily Geary. We're at 51 Shelley Road, so directly neighboring the top part of 47 Shelley Road. I think very quickly we echo all of the O'Marra's concerns as neighbors, especially with the well water issue and how that's going to impact the surrounding properties. But the piece that really concerns us from a safety perspective is the narrowness of Shelley Road and the burden on the road and the traffic and the potential danger that would be created with, I mean, I lost track of how many parking spots, but it sounded like there were at least 2 spots per unit. So that's room for 18 cars, plus visitors, plus additional handicap spots. Even just within the last several months because of the pandemic, the number of pedestrians walking Shelley Road has significantly increased. You know, nice day, people don't have much else to do. It's really created a dangerous situation already when 2 cars are trying to pass and there are people on both sides of the road. Also, given that Shelley Road is in really, really bad shape with a number of potholes and a number of other things that the town has not resolved despite numerous requests. And finally, I would be remiss if I did not address the commissioners of the zoning board directly. This is at least my 7th meeting on this topic. And I am so frustrated in the decision that you guys reached back in 2016 to deny Mr. Draper the variance he was seeking to build 2 properties, which there were several neighbors that were in favor of. I hope you are very happy about where we are at now.
And the only thing I'd echo is I would ask the commission, is the proposed development in line with the character of the neighborhood? I know there's been a lot of discussion within the state of Connecticut regarding that phrase. And I really think I'm going to insist on a response from the commission regarding that. Is this within the character of the neighborhood? Does it fit?
Any other comments or questions?
No, that's all at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next we have Sean Toland.
Hi, can you hear me? I was
Yes.
on mute. Sorry. Yes. Hi, my name's Sean Toland. I live at 10 Lime Kiln Court. I guess I just had a question. If I've submitted questions via email, will those questions get addressed differently, or do I need to reiterate them here, or what's the process? Sorry for not sure on the process.
Were there very many? Because if you want to give them to us now, we can.
No, there is. I mean, it was. I reiterate. Apologies. The Gary's concern about the safety on Shelley Road, just the narrowness and disrepair of Shelley Road, which is it was already an issue, and this, add in significant traffic, it becomes a significant issue. And then, the only other point I made, and this, I'm not an expert on the statutes, but if you're really trying to give people affordable housing, give them an opportunity, putting them in a place where they have no access to public transportation is not ideal. There's no public transportation. You can't get a bus down this road, so you're forced to spend a disproportionate amount on automobile, and I just don't think you're giving people a real fair shake on that. So I'm not sure around the statutes but that's a comment I would have around it. So I mean, my main point is the safety of Shelley Road is in the traffic. It's surprising. You would think for a dead end street there's not a lot of traffic, but there's a lot of traffic on Shelley Road and in the surrounding streets. So it's quite dangerous. The road's already dangerous, very narrow, and in a state of disrepair, as already said. That's my comment.
Thank you. David, are you seeing anyone else?
No, not at this time, but I will just reiterate a reminder. If you are participating by phone and you wish to submit comments, press or submit comments, verbal comments that is, press *9. If you are participating with a tablet or with a computer, there's a toolbar at the bottom of your Zoom app. You can click that to get to your name where you have the opportunity to raise your hand. It's a blue icon in the participants chat. I see there's 2 more hands that have popped up since I said that. So Mr. Crouse.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. John Crouse, 40 Apollo Road, Bethel, Connecticut. I don't live anywhere near Shelley Road, but I am concerned for having traveled down there many a time to go to friends' houses. I think you take your life in your hands every time you go on that road in a car. And if you're I've never walked down that road, nor will I, because I don't have to. But if I was in that neighborhood and I was sitting here on this call, I'd be raising my hand saying, you're putting kids in harm. You're putting adults in harm's way. That road's a nightmare. Even if you were to pave it, doesn't matter. It's too narrow. I've been dodging trucks going up to the summit for 7 years now. And it's pretty much driven me to make the decision that when my kids get out of school, I'm going to move out of this town because I can't take the truck traffic. And if you think it's bad going up my road's wide. It was intentionally made extra wide, I believe, because there was a potential big development going up behind my house when I bought it 17 years ago. We built it here. We knew there was some potential to destroy that great piece of land up on top where the water tower of Danbury was. But you know, I can't imagine construction trucks going down Shelley Road and you're taking that corner off of 302 and you're facing a big dump truck full of whatever they're taking out of there. It's not even fathomable. So, you know, if we want to put people in that kind of position, I think that's probably not in anybody's safety. So if this is about safety, it's what they're doing up there just shouldn't be done. So I'll stop because there should be people on that road that have a little more passion about this than I do. But it's there shouldn't be any more traffic going up that road. It's just dangerous. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Hello, this is Abigail Formus speaking again. May I speak?
Yes.
I really appreciate the comments from the residents of Bethel, especially from 43 Shelley Road. Those comments were right on point relative to water safety, as well as safety for pedestrians on that road, as well as the previous speaker who just spoke. But I have 2 quick comments. Number 1, can you please explain to everyone who's participating in this call the next steps, the process, the timeline, and the appeal rights that the Bethel residents may have? I think it's important for us to be able to understand that process moving forward, to the extent we may need to seek other legal recourse to try to prevent this project from moving forward. And then number 2, just to point out for everyone who lives on Shelley Road, when we purchased the property back in 2006, lot number 2, and we owned just 2+ acres, the property values at that time were just over $250,000 for 2+ acres. Today, that lot cannot sell in Bethel, Connecticut, partly because I guess, or I suspect because of this project, but number 2, it's already down almost $100,000, the value of the property as it is. So if you continue to change the character of the zoning in that particular town and on that particular road, everyone who resides on Shelley Road is going to be significantly adversely affected financially. Never mind the health concerns, never mind the public safety concerns, and never mind the traffic concerns, including, I would imagine, there's going to be accidents on that road because of the construction.
Thank you, Adam. David, do you see anyone else that wishes to ask a question?
We have a Linda Thunhorst. Thunhorst, excuse me.
Yep, Linda Thunhorst, 8 Limekiln Court. You know, I echo a lot of the sentiments, and I joined a little late, so I apologize. But three items. One, I do want to understand really what the next steps are here. Not familiar with all the planning and zoning processes. Two, lots of valid concerns raised about the condition and you know, the dangers of Shelley Road. And I would just add to that, another individual brought it up as well, the intersection of Shelley on 302 where it's bifurcated. I don't know, I believe that's in the town of Newtown at that point, so I don't know how much this complicates, and 302 is a state road, but if you have to make a left-hand turn into Shelley, or make, you know, people make the left-hand turn from 302 into Shelley and take the first. I mean, you take your life in your hand, and I wouldn't want to be on either of those corners when a truck was going in or out. So I think that is a very specific concern at a state level and involving a state road. And so I don't know what the remedies or the next steps are in the investigation of that, but I think that that's a significant concern. And I just want to echo another sentiment that someone else made on this call, was that my profession does not involve building or planning or zoning, but I can't understand how we got here. I can't understand how we got to, you know, not building affordable housing on a dead-end road with no transportation when everyone else has to conform to 2-acre zoning, and the costs associated to that for a homeowner. I can't for the life of me understand how the town of Bethel is looking out for its constituents or its residents, and we've gotten to this point. That's all.
Thank you, Linda.
Next we have a Tina. Oh, excuse me. Tina?
If she's not there, David, we'll move on.
Gloria Whaley.
I still show her as being muted, David.
Yeah, people are.
Okay.
Oh, she's there. Gloria's there.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting this meeting in Zoom so the neighbors are able to participate. My name is Gloria Whaley and I reside at 5 Limekiln Court. And I have been in this area for a very long time. About the development and building of the 9 2-bedroom units in Shelley Road, I want to express some concerns, and at this point, I will concentrate more on the safety of the roads. Shelley Road is a no outlet road connecting 2 other cul-de-sacs, Racebrook and Limekiln, to Route 302. This means that all vehicles of residents or businesses entering or exiting any of these 3 streets must use Shelley Road to go in and to go out. And because of the 3 roads, the 3 streets over the years have not been maintained or updated properly by the town, there are very strong safety concerns for the residents. With the construction of the 9 2-bedroom unit, low-income housing project, the number of cars using Shelley Road definitely will increase by at least 20 additional cars using the roads several times a day. And this raises a safety concern for the children who ride their bikes and play on the roads, on the 3 roads. There was a time when they were in Limekiln alone, they were 24 children, 24 kids. Racebrook also had several children, and a good number of kids also lived in Shelley Road. Those children, of course, are now adults, and most of the neighbors have already moved out away from Bethel. But as the houses are changing hands, new families with young children are moving in. So the number of children is starting to grow, and these 3 streets is starting to grow at a rapid way. Therefore, it is imperative that the area is very safe for the sake of the children and also of the other residents. Shelley Road over the years has become so narrow that in some sections cars stop and pull to the side next to the brush so incoming traffic can pass. Not only school buses, oil and gas delivery trucks, lawn maintenance, UPS, FedEx, you name it, garbage trucks. Also, when they are driving on Shelley Road, they tend to take 50% of the width of the already narrow road. Also, SUVs and cars have come close to a head-on collision. I have seen that. The situation considerably worsens, of course, during the winter. And consequently, Shelley Road needs to be, whether this project proceeds or not, Shelley Road needs to be widened and maintained properly in order to take this danger away. Exit from the 2 side roads, Racebrook and Limekiln Court, have stop signs, but also they have blind spots, and the drivers cannot see cars approaching from Shelley Road, especially on the left side. This situation is an accident waiting to happen and must be corrected by either redoing the road. I don't know really what has to be done because I'm not an expert on this, but at least clearing any obstruction that might be there. Cars are driven on Shelley Road at a high speed, creating a danger to neighbors who are out for a stroll. They're walking or jogging, especially during this time. Many people jog for exercises or walk their pets. This situation, probably the limit needs to be changed from 25 to 15 to, and also there need to have some placed on Shelley intersections of Racebrook and Limekiln Court. And of course, I like to think, so the addition of a solar power speed sign visible to cars entering Shelley Road, where Bethel starts, in the area of, where Bethel starts, not necessarily on the Newtown area, but where Bethel starts would be an excellent step and reminding to adhere to the speed limits. This would be for the safety of all neighbors and pets in our little community. The entrance and exit from 302 to Shelley, those 2 areas are quite confusing and very narrow and should be reviewed and correctly. And this probably the town will need to work in conjunction with Newtown. And just overall, I was thinking, has any of this, since possibly Newtown might be also affected, is Bethel working with Newtown on this proposed building? During the many years that I have lived in Limekiln and used those roads many times per day, I have not seen any repairs done to the 3 roads. Some temporary filling holes, but not necessarily repaired. Drivers at this point have to zigzag on Shelley Road to avoid potholes, uneven cracks, or raised surfaces. Shelley Road has in fact aged. It now shows considerable fatigue and cracking, so it needs a full depth reclamation repair.
Okay, excuse me, Ms. Whaley.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we've kind of met over your 3-minute mark for your comments. And I believe you did submit some written material. Am I correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so what we will do is we will make sure that that written material is given to the Planning and Zoning Commission members, if it's not already uploaded on the file, and we can continue the conversation at the next hearing.
Right, and I do have a question before I finish. Is all are questions going to be answered for all these written comments and materials, or are they just going to be treated as comments and nothing will happen, nothing will be answered. That's, I think, something important to determine now, because are we being just heard, or are we just going through the motion of saying something?
This evening, what you're doing is you're asking your questions. The hearing will be continued. We have another hearing right after this hearing this evening. Your questions between the town and the applicant, we'll do our best to answer your questions. We're taking copious notes, and we'll do our best to try to have answers for you at the next hearing. And we will determine that at the end of this hearing when that date will be.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you, Ms. Whaley.
Thank
Is
you,
there anyone
Gloria.
else? Karen Foster, David, can you?
Karen Foster?
Hello, I'm Karen Foster, 9 Burnham Wood Road, Bethel. I don't live near this development, but I've heard say everybody about it. And I have to say on record, I'm against it. It sounds like it's not going to be a safe place to put these units. But my question is, if you are going to force it in under 830G and you are successful at that, which units, how many units, and what size will actually be affordable? I would like to see the spirit of the law be upheld and these actually be family units so that low-income families in Bethel can actually buy a house instead of renting. So that is my question and my concern. Will they be family units? How many bedrooms? Or will they just be a token 1 bedroom in order to maximize profits? That's all.
Thank you, Karen.
And there's one more, David?
Yes, we're going to try Tina again. Tina. Oh, she just, the timing is off.
Okay, if she can hear me, I would suggest that Tina contact the office tomorrow. It's 203-794-8578, and we will discuss with her tomorrow how to hook her in the next time we have a hearing.
I've got her unmuted. She should be able to speak.
Tina, are you there? Okay, David, let's move on.
Okay.
There's something wrong with the connection.
Yeah.
Danielle Monroe.
Hi, thank you very much. I live on Lime Kiln Court, number 9, and I wanted to ask if there was any consideration to the extra load that this will bear on all of the utilities on this limited area. Currently, we have buried power lines on Racebrook and on Lime Kiln. However, that doesn't, well, aesthetically, that's very nice. It doesn't help us when we have storms that come through this area. We frequently lose power due to the tree encroachment on Shelley Road. And with an additional number of units there, I realize that's not going to impact storms, but it's an impact to the people that live up there, especially if those utility poles are going to be not buried when they go up to that development. It's also going to have an impact on internet speeds here in this area, which is becoming less of a want and more of a need. We can especially see that here in this time. This area is currently only served by one utility for high-speed internet, and that's Comcast. So it is essentially a monopoly in this area. And the services have already seen a significant decline at this time when we're all at home and all relying on those dramatically to continue to access work and just access everything. So I think that that's a consideration that needs to be addressed by the commission as well. Thank you.
Danielle, I missed getting your address. Do you mind repeating it?
Not at all. I'm at 9 Lime Kiln Court.
Thank you.
Certainly.
We have a Brian Keenis.
Yep. Thank you, David. Brian Kinnis, 42 Shelley Road. Just like to echo everybody else's concerns about the safety of the road. But I also want to comment on and ask that the commission take a closer look at where the storm drains actually drain to. And that just want that to be addressed in the future if possible. And that's it.
Thank you, Brian.
I believe that's all the comments. David, just double check what I'm looking at here.
Unless the chairman would like to entertain another opportunity for Tina to give her comments. It doesn't seem like anyone else has comments they wish to provide at this time.
Is she there?
Tina?
I think she's having a problem.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, Beth, do you want to pose these questions to Attorney Marcus this evening, or have him track all of these for the next meeting and come back with responses? How would you like to handle this?
I think in the interest of time, and you have another hearing scheduled
Right.
this evening, that any responses, there's questions here that are both for the applicant and for the town of Bethel to address and answer. So
Okay.
therefore, I think we should just go through them, and we'll take this up at our next hearing, which I believe that we've already talked about continuing the hearing to July 28th.
Correct.
The night of our regular meeting. It's a Tuesday night. Also, in regards to this application, the commission, Pat and I had a discussion. There was discussion on having a site walk. We would like to schedule a site walk. I have two tentative dates, the 18th or 19th of July. In regards to those site walks, prior to filing these minutes tomorrow, I would like to ask the commission to think about if there is anything in particular that they would like to be staked in the field before they go on the site walk. So we'll finalize the date of the site walk between now and the next couple of days, say before the 4th. And we also will finalize the direction, if there is any, that you wish to give the applicant as to if there's particular areas that you would like to be staked in the field.
Okay.
How's that?
Perfect.
So I would continue the hearing until July 28th.
July, yes. This 47 Shelley Road, 9 units, Connecticut State Statute 8-30G will be continued to July 28th. And thank you everyone for all of your questions and comments.
If Pat, before you continue, there was a couple of questions regarding some legalese. And
Yes.
if the people wish to contact our land use office tomorrow, I'll review those questions with counsel and get back to them on an individual basis.
Okay, good. And if I could just answer.
Neil, wait, excuse me, Neil's saying hi. He wants to talk.
Okay,
Neil?
go ahead, Neil.
Unmute. I have no objection to responding to most of these questions at the next meeting, but it's very interesting. There's one thing you ought to take note of, that the bulk of the speakers this evening focused on the condition of Shelley Road. And
Neil,
that is problematic.
I agree with you, and
Yeah.
I will tell you that we will address that as a town.
You got to take that.
Town
to board.
comments, similar to other applications that we've had in the past. Thank you.
That's definitely should go to the Board of Selectmen for the sake of the public. I agree.
Thank you, Neil. And I just wanted to just address one question that came up that people that don't or aren't aware of what 8-30G is. And that simply means that 30% of the units being built will be affordable. All right, as I said, this particular hearing is continued until July 28th. Moving on to our next hearing, legal notice. The Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on June 30, 2020 at 7 p.m. using the virtual platform Zoom to hear the application of Tim Draper, Oakwoods LLC, for an affordable housing application under Section 8-30G of the Connecticut State Statutes. The proposal is for 11 units to be located at 9 Good Hill Road. This property can be found in Tax Assessor's Office as Map 23, Block 17, and Lot 25-1. And the public has already been advised that they can send their questions. And all documents are filed out in the Google Drive if anyone wishes to look at them. So moving on, Beth, is there anything you wanted to say before we get started? I think Beth stepped away. So Neil, if I may, I'll turn this over to you.
Out. Sorry, guys.
That's okay.
I let the dog out. Go ahead with your presentations. I have nothing to add.
Okay, thank you. Neil.
Yes, ma'am. We're just a step ahead of me. Okay. For the record, again, Neil Marcus, Cone and Wolf, BC, 158 Deer Hill Avenue in Danbury. And again, the application, much like the hearing that just closed, is to create affordable housing on Good Hill Road. And it's 11 units of housing, of which 30% will be set aside, 15% at 80% of the state median income, 15%. It's 60% of the state median income because, again, it's the lower of the state or the local and traditionally the Danbury area median income runs slightly higher than the state. Again, the application is focused on issues of public health and safety, and that's what we're going to try to focus our discussion on this evening. We're not going to again talk about issues like aesthetics and interest issues such as property values. Quite honestly, 8-30G doesn't even mention property values. It's not a consideration that the legislature and the state has even been concerned with when it comes to the creation of affordable housing. So in this application, we've again submitted the affordability plan indicating that 30% of the 11 units will be set aside. And though it was asked in the last hearing, I'm going to address it. The unit mix for the set aside is reflective of the unit mix of the property itself. So if you're building 1-bedroom units, 30% of the 1 bedrooms get set aside. If you're building 2 units, 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, again, it's 30% of each unit type that they get set aside in any affordable housing application. So having said that, again, we've been through a long hearing process on Good Hill involving the wetlands application. It's been vetted and it's been studied, and recommendations comments were made by the town's review engineers and environmentalists and consultants that have already been incorporated into the plan. At this point, though, again, I recognize that there's some areas where the commissions overlap jurisdiction. We're going to hopefully focus only on those areas of site engineering that deal with planning and zoning issues. Stormwater quality as they affect the wetlands have already been determined. So having said that, hopefully Mike Bazzucco is still tuned in, and I'm going to ask him if he'll take the stand and take the mic, take the Zoom, whatever, and explain briefly the concept of the plan that we're asking you to review. You there, Mike?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can.
Good. For the record, Mike Mazzucco, professional engineer. My office is in Danbury, representing the applicant. And if I can, David, I'll share my screen.
Screen sharing is enabled, Mike.
Thank you. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay, this is a 1.5 acre piece of property on Good Hill Road. It's in the R20 zone. It's pretty much vacant. There's an existing frame building on cribbing located sort of in the center of the property towards the east, in this location behind parcel A. The property doesn't have any wetlands on it, but there are 2 off-site wetland resources. There's a wetland area to the north that's associated with storm drainage discharge from Good Hill Road that discharges at this point. And then to the west, there is a vernal pool and a wetland associated with that. And the regulated area lines are shown for those 2 respected wetland resources. The site has been filled in the past by previous owners or owner, and it mainly occurred in the area where the proposed buildings and parking lot is. It was elevated approximately a couple of feet. The topography of the site is pretty gentle. If you start out at Good Hill Road, it's pretty level. It rises up to a slight high point, maybe a few feet, and then it drops down into a flat area where the buildings and the parking is proposed. And I'll go over to that site plan right now. So as Neil had said, the proposal is for 11 two-bedroom units, a mix of affordable and regular units. There'll be no interior garage spaces. All of the parking will be exterior. There's enough for 2 vehicles per unit. There's 3 visitor spaces, and there's 1 handicap required. But because of 26 spaces, you exceed the limit on 1 space for 25, so you need 2 handicap spaces, which we did provide. The project will be served by municipal sewer. There's sewer in Good Hill Road. And we did get some comments regarding water and sewer from the fire marshal and the public utilities director. And we had been in contact with them because we do need to extend the water main from Taylor Avenue. And he had some comments about that. So we will follow up in that regard. And the site is going to be filled. We are filling it about 3 or 4 feet in the area of the parking lot. And that does a couple of things. It allows us to get gravity out to the sewer. And it allows for the installation of the stormwater management system. And I'll just go to the site utilities plan. So the drainage system, there's 2 separate components with regard to stormwater management with detention. There's a small section of stormwater management at the entrance. We essentially come off the road to a high point near the property line. Then we just dip down, so we're not running any water out into the road. And then that water gets discharged to a level spreader just below the retaining wall on the north side of the property. There's the larger stormwater management system picks up all of the parking, the majority of the parking lot, the remainder of that parking area driveway, and all of the roof runoff. And that's the large system that sits in the parking area. And again, that was another reason for raising the parking area, is to allow that system to be installed and be above potential high groundwater and restricted layers. There's also some stormwater, some drainage systems that run behind the building that pick up off-site water that drain down what would have been like through where the buildings were and north towards the north wetland. So we're picking up that water and running it across the back of the buildings. And we have a small inlet to pick up a very minor area where we're creating sort of a depression. We don't want to pond any water there. So we're picking that up and then running it across underneath the building to that same discharge level spreader here. The majority of the southeast corner of the site is going to remain natural. That's this area here. We're not touching any of that. And let me just go to, so this is the lighting and landscaping. So we did a lighting intensity, and we don't have any lighting on the rear portion of the building. There's no decks, and there's no doorways. There's no patios or anything back there. We do show some screening in the back because that was something that was added to protect and provide some screening to the vernal pool to the west. Just some planting in the front of the building and along the driveway. And let me just go back to the site. I just want to show you. We did show the turning movements for the aerial truck coming in, being able to, the driveway or the parking area is wider than, normally we'd have a 24-foot travel way for two-way traffic, but it's much bigger than that, just to allow for a large emergency vehicle to pull in, back up and on a one-point turn, and then be able to exit the site. So this is just construction details. We have a sheet for erosion details and the watersheds, which we did exhaustive analysis on for pre and post, which coincide with the drainage report. So that's about it in a nutshell. If you want, I could go to a screen if somebody wants to speak, or I can stop sharing.
This is Pat. In the fire marshal's letter, he said provide fire hydrant on site at complex and parking area.
Yes,
Where is that going to be?
I'll show you. I mean, I haven't worked out those details yet, but I would assume he's probably talking about, I'm thinking somewhere in this island near the dumpster.
Okay. And then he
You know,
also
we don't-
said, please clarify grade behind rear of units allow for a fire department ground ladder to reach second floor windows, 8-foot minimum distance away from building.
Which is, yeah, which is fine. The grade around the back of the building is
level.
It's not very steep. We almost have like a level area back there and in back of all the units. So that's not a problem at all.
Okay.
But yeah, we have to work out the details about the line, if they want the hydrant back there, whether we have to run 2 lines or we can run one larger line to the hydrant and then pull off of that with a domestic line to the building. But I'll work with,
Where on the Teague property actually is his house?
it's, I don't know, let me just go to the area mapping, might be able to see it on some of the aerial. Okay, here, let me zoom into this and you can see it. I can't get that. All right. Can you see my pointer?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so the heavy line is the property line, and that's the house right there.
Okay.
And I think right there is a shed.
Yeah, there is a shed. I saw it on an earlier.
Yeah, so that shows up on our map, but not the dwelling location.
Okay. So then there are a number of questions from Tom Vila, our Public Utilities Director. Did you have an opportunity to go through all of those?
Just very briefly, but most of them have to deal with the water and the sewer. And yeah, he's asking us to put in manholes instead of clean outs, which is not a problem. And yeah, we already spoke to him about the water, and we're on the water supply watershed or system area. So we already did look at that.
All right. Beth, is there anything you want to say before we move out to the public? Or Neil, anything you want to add?
No, I'm good. We'll stop there from our presentation and listen to the public.
Okay. Beth, anything?
Yeah, there was just one thing in my memo when I started to do similar to Shelley Road, the history of the property. I stopped because when I looked at the transfer of ownership, the file that it makes reference to in the survey, there's some discrepancies there, and maybe Neil can look at it and give us a little bit more history on the property and what the review those discrepancies with us. Has to deal with the size of the lot. It said originally Mr. Draper had purchased it and it was 1.99, but the survey that we have in front of us says it's 1.55. And they also, and I believe I did mention this when the applicant first came in, and it was either to Neil, Mike, or Tim himself, is the configuration of this property. How did it become the way it is? It's before my time. I was not here when it happened, and I just would like a little bit more history on how the configuration resulted in this property. Secondly, as far as this too, I just want to say that I do believe that the commission probably wants to go on a site walk to review this property, and I would suggest that we again look at the 18th or 19th, and also we would If you wish to continue the hearing, it would be the end of July.
Beth, do you want to do both site walks on the same day or spread them out?
I would do them on the same day if you
Okay,
want,
okay,
but we'll discuss that and then get back to the applicant.
okay.
And I believe Barry, from Barry, I apologize.
It's
Getting
okay.
late for me. Barry Parfit is here from Wright Pierce.
Okay.
I turn it over to Barry.
Yes, my name is Barry Parfit, professional engineer with Wright Pierce, representing the town. And we had the opportunity to review these documents submitted to the planning and zoning. And we prepared a review memo, submitted it to Beth, dated today, this morning. And just wanted to review our comments and describe what our concerns were. So if I may share my screen, Dave?
Sure.
Something I can do?
Barry, screen sharing is enabled.
Okay. I should be showing the existing plan here.
Yes, it is up on our screen.
Okay, great, thanks.
You're
So our first comment was regarding the showing all the major landmarks within at least 50 feet of the property line on the existing surveys and on the other drawings as well. Things like the streams, ponds, swamps, rocks, outcroppings, existing buildings. In that we're thinking of particular number 11, Good Hill Road, the building, the existing residence there. Also wells, septic systems that are existing, large trees, 24-inch or greater in diameter, all out about at least 50 feet outside the property line. We would like to be seen. That's something that we've seen on the planning and zoning checklist and commented on. Also, the existing and proposed wooded foliage line is not shown on the drawings and was also one of our comments. Regarding the retaining wall along the northern side of the property, I'll switch to this sheet here and zoom in. So there's a retaining wall, I'll highlight it here, along this northern section of the property line. And there was a test hole dug right about here, it looks like, test hole number 2. And noted in the drawings, the groundwater level was around 2 feet above the proposed base of the retaining wall. So our comment and concern is that the saturation of the soils adjacent to this retaining wall on this property side, which is the high side of the retaining wall, may lead to frost heaving of the wall due to frost penetration below the free draining materials if it's not drained to the frost line. So it was noted that on the drawing, free draining materials are specified: riprap, half-inch stone for the infiltration trench, 1.25 inch clean stone, sand wrapped filter fabric on the outside of the retaining wall. So we just wanted to note that a structural engineer of record should determine the proper depth of this material using published standards known with the known frost depths and by consulting with a geotechnical engineer. Our next comment concerns the stormwater drain pipe around the western side. I'll highlight that. So as pointed out by Mr. Mizuko, it begins back here, runs along the western side of the building to this manhole, and then there's another pipe that comes here, joins the manhole, and then runs underneath the building, and then exits through the retaining wall on the north side of the property. Our concern is about the pipe underneath the building. With it not being a pipe coming from the building, it's draining water from the outside of the building and then coming underneath the building. We're concerned about the potential pipe failure in some way. And then if that happens, the washing out of the subgrade below the slab, which could lead to cracking of the slab. Okay, also on this drawing, it was noted on the details that there would be proposed guardrail fencing or safety fencing on top of the retaining walls. Again, we highlighted the northern retaining wall. There's also a retaining wall along the eastern side of the property down here running all the way over to the building, but we didn't note any reference to where the safety fencing would be located on top of the retaining walls. Regarding the fill and excavation of the site, we didn't note the volumes of fill and excavation, proposed fill and excavation. And this was in relation to section 6.4 of the zoning regulations. We would like to see the amount of fill and excavation for different types or different locations of the site that are outlined in that section of the regulation, such as the building, foundation, the driveway, overall site, and if there is blasting volume. And then related to excavation, we wanted to inquire as to the method of excavation. Is it just digging, or is hammer or blasting proposed for any portion of the excavation? The reason we're asking this is because of concerns over the existing residences in the area, foundations that could crack as a result of this, or groundwater well contamination resulting from these types of methods of excavation. Related to the site lighting, I'll switch over to the landscaping plan. We noted the lighting that's proposed along the driveway here. Here's a light pole here, 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 here. And then there's several shorter light poles near the building and around the parking lot. And then taller light poles on either side of the parking lot here and here. We saw that they were outlined in the schedule of lighting fixtures down here. We did note in our comments, we did inquire about this particular number in the model for each of these fixtures. Why? Because it relates to the height of the poles, and we know that there's a default. Oops, let me slide back over here. We saw the default elevation, but this number here would give us the proposed elevation of each of those lighting poles throughout the property. Also on the landscaping plan, we noticed that the existing trees are still shown here throughout, and we would expect those to be removed as shown on the site plan, but they are still shown here as existing on the landscaping plan. So that should be clarified. Also regarding some of the proposed trees, we have some concerns about their proximity to the property line and in some cases retaining wall. So along this portion of the property line, we have, I think these are the cherry trees that are shown here, about 2 to 4 feet from the property line, and then also from the retaining wall, which the retaining wall runs along here and then down and along here between the parking lot and the property line. So These trees here, according to the symbol, are Norway spruces. We're concerned about the proximity of this to the retaining wall and property line. Those are within a few feet as well of both the retaining wall and property line. The spruces can grow up to expected 40 to 60 feet high, 25, 30 feet wide. So that's our concern regarding the location of those trees. Regarding the configuration of the parking lot, we just wanted to ask for clarity on the plan for snow removal with regards to the proximity of the walkways, the parking spaces. We would just like to see an outline of the holding areas where plows can pile snow without blocking parking spaces or the flow of traffic. Regarding, let me switch over to another plan here, back to the site plan. We noticed at the entrance and exit of the lot, the sight lines are shown from about here. I'll highlight that. The sight line is shown going down this way, 450 feet looks like, and then the opposite way, 375 feet. This one is going right through this tree here, which we're concerned about. So we asked for clarity about the sight lines for the entrance exit of the site. No traffic signs were shown on the plans. We didn't note any traffic signs. Although it's a private property, it is accessible to the public. So we didn't see any stop signs, any other pedestrian signs other than the proposed handicap signs. So that was also a note on the drawings, traffic signs. And then lastly, the proposed elevation of the retaining wall here is shown to be top of wall 518.5, and then bottom of the wall 517.5. The proposed elevation on this side is around 515 at the parking lot. On the bottom side of the wall, maybe 513 between these two contour lines. So just to clarify, these elevations here didn't match up with the contours. So that's a summary of the comments from Ray Pierce.
Thank you very much, Barry. Beth, did you want to add anything before I move out to the public, or Neil, did you want to add anything?
No, we've made a note. Hopefully we'll get the report in writing and we can address it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Beth,
you.
anything you want to add before we move to the public?
No, I suggest you go to the public. Thanks, Pat.
Okay. Again, please limit your comments or questions no greater than 3 minutes. And if you would please use the Zoom, raise your hand to do so. And David, let me know when you're seeing somebody.
Okay, we first have a Teague for public comment.
Mr. Teague?
Hi, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So I have a few concerns. I want to thank, Ray Pierce for pointing a few of them out. But, I have a few safety concerns just about the driveway going along the property line. I do have 2 kids and just the amount of traffic that's going to be going in and out. I mean, we're talking, 22 cars and the lighting. And, I didn't get a very good clear answer on that retaining wall in the back, the overall height of it. If somebody can give me a better, more definitive answer on that. But, overall, the most concern I'm about is the financial aspect of this whole situation. I can't even believe we're here talking about it. But, you can see if you pop that map back up, obviously they take it down, but it just seems like everybody goes over my property like it's a piece of grass. This thing surrounds my property on all 3 sides. And, the financial impact is going to be devastating. I mean, I moved here on a cul-de-sac to raise a family for a reason. If I wanted to live in a condominium complex with 24-hour lighting and noise and garbage trucks going in and out, I would have done that. It's just, you know, the frustration level every time I get on the meeting again, it's just, my blood pressure goes through the roof, and it's, you know, it's just, just unbelievable that we're here, but I do have some concerns about the safety of my family and the overall bordering of the property. And my list can go on, but I would like an answer on, you know, the value of the home, how that's going to affect the people in the neighborhood, and who's doing that kind of investigating to see what the overall value is going to be worth when this project is done. You know, the well, I mean, you guys are looking at my picture. You were just looking at it. The well is in the back of my property, you know, 15 feet from where they're going to be digging and blasting. I can't even put a shovel in the ground without hitting a rock. I mean, this whole place is ledge. So to tell me that they're not going to blast to put piping in, and what's that effect going to be on my well and my kids, and, you know, the fear factor is through the roof. So, I mean, I don't have much more to say except, you know what the right thing to do is. And, yeah, I'm sure I'll have another chance to speak. So thanks.
Sir, would you mind providing your name and address for the record?
Sure. Mark Teague, 11 Good Hill Road.
Thank you very much.
The one that surrounds the property. Obviously, like Beth talked about, how that even got approved to begin with, I don't know. You know, one more major concern that's on my mind while we're here talking is, you know, how the whole thing even came about. You know, I moved here 5 years ago and was asking about this property from the day I moved in. The old owner passed away. I was down the town 7, 8, 10, 12 times in a matter of weeks. When this guy passes away, nobody knows anything. The next day it's sold, and here we are with a development with never even a for sale sign, or never the opportunity to even try to purchase the property, you know, to raise the value of my home, never mind devalue the value of my home. So another big concern of mine, that I never got an answer on it, and I don't think I ever will. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Teague. David, are you seeing anyone else?
Yes, we have a Marianne Cullen.
Hi.
Hi, Marianne.
I just want to I want to know how water is going to be supplied to this condo complex.
Okay.
Is
These
it going to
questions
be
will all be
city
taken
water?
away and answered at our next meeting, Marianne.
Or are they going to do a well? That's my first question. My second question is, however did we come up with 11 units of housing going to be built on what was a 1 acre zone property? Because I moved into this area and I checked that things were zoned single family housing because of an experience I'd had with a previous place I lived. So why are we talking 11 houses scrunched, doubling the population of our neighborhood? And they're going to all be, you know, put in a single family housing area.
Could you provide your name and address for the record?
Sure. It's Mary, M-A-R-Y-N-A-N-N, last name K-U-L-L-A. I'm at 17 Good Hill Road, Bethel, Connecticut.
Thank you, Marianne.
You're welcome.
We have a Mr. Rich Garrity.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name is Rich Garrity. I'm at 13 Good Hill Road. I do have a couple of points I'd like to bring up too from the safety side. One of them, it may have been discussed already, but the fire safety, if there was to be a fire in the rear side of the buildings there or the units, you know, is there going to be a fire hydrant in place, or will there be sprinkler systems in the units to prevent that from spreading into the tree line or potentially up the wall to my house? My second point is for the sewer that they're going to be putting in. what is the impact of adding 11 units to the current system that's set up for the sewers for the houses on the street, as far as like blockage issues or the flow that's currently based on the size of the piping for our houses as they stand today. For the water main portion of it, some really big concerns being you're coming up from Taylor up to Good Hill to do it. Like Mark had mentioned before, there's a lot of rock around here. What kind of impact is blasting going to have coming from Taylor all the way up Good Hill to get into that property line? Not to mention as well, Taylor Road with the safety aspect as far as people walking on it. That road is small and tight as it is. And then you're going to go ahead and shut that down while you have to basically install the water mains. I'm just curious what impact that's going to have and how we're going to protect my kids, the surrounding kids on Taylor Road while that process is ongoing. And then last but not least, just from the road safety point, I mean, Taylor's a very busy road as it is. It's a cut through for a lot of people to get through. The road is very narrow. We've had a lot of trucks had issues coming in and out of that road to where the town's put up probably Taylor Road sign 3 times, as well as big trucks trying to get through. Really concerned about my kids at the bus stop in the morning. We're talking about 11 units with 22 plus more vehicles on the road going up and down during the morning peak. What kind of impact that's going to have with my kids standing at the bus stop and or people that want to walk down Taylor Avenue. I just don't see how it's feasible without any kind of sidewalk improvement or install to make this safe for anybody in this area right now. And then as regards to the trees, I would like to know if there's any way that you can flag the trees that will be getting removed so I can see from my property line which ones they are, so I can make sure I understand that. And then last but not least, we talk about home values and Neil talks about how it has had nothing to do with the 830G. But at the end of the day, it does impact my property value. And if in fact Neil says it doesn't, then I would challenge him and the applicant Tim Draper to potentially put one of these affordable housing units along his Aunt Patty West property where he has extra property, being that I think that would be a great location for it myself. Otherwise, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Garrity.
Next, we have a Rich Mould. Rich Mould.
I think you still have me on there, Rich Garrity. I think you have to go to Rich. You still got me, I think.
Rich Mould. Okay, we're going to move on. We'll give him a chance later. Tori Cornish.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. My name is Victoria Cornish and I reside at 21 Good Hill Road. Even though Neil would like to control and direct the kind of comments that we're making as a public, we are not paying him. So I'd like to take the opportunity to voice my concerns and he can take his opportunity to listen.
Tori, just so I can let you know, he's not controlling anything anyone is saying. The public is here to ask or comment on anything they choose to.
Thank you for that, Pat. I was just responding to his comments when he opened up the conversation about how he didn't want to hear certain things. So as a resident of Good Hill Road, because of the comments, I was concerned. I looked into the definition of planning and zoning and wanted to make sure that my concerns did fall underneath the guidelines. And comprehensive land use planning is a public and democratic process that defines the goals and objectives to achieve a community's vision. Land use plans and zoning maps are consistent with a comprehensive plan that can protect the health, welfare, and safety of the community of residents. I feel that the value I have invested into my home has a direct correlation into my wellness. And as a taxpayer and resident of Good Hill, I want it to be on the record that this is how I feel. I am interested in learning more about the structure and the facade of the structure and seeing if it's consistent within the neighborhood. And if it's not, therefore, inconsistency with keeping in the neighborhood and keeping the characteristics of our community, I'm wondering what guidelines are around that. We all have said that we have paid, you know, money to live in this community, and all of our homes look very, very similar. And putting a complex like this will affect our values and will affect, you know, the money that we will get back when we sell our homes. My other concern also is I have photos of a separate property that the developer owns on 49 Taylor Avenue. I've taken a photo every single day since December 1st, I believe, of 2019. And these photos are specifically of the maintenance of the property and the fact that the gates are always open to the dumpster. There's debris everywhere. And sometimes the dumpster is even out of its little section, and there's other blockades. And I'm just concerned about the safety and wellness of our road and what kinds of care and maintenance is going to be taken in the property so that the road isn't obstructed or, you know, things just don't continue to be not in their proper places. Those are my comments for this section of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. David, I see Rich Mold has his hand up, but he's muted.
No, we're going to return to him at the end after two other persons have their comments. Hopefully by that time, he'll have whatever conflict he was having with giving his comments before resolved. We're going to go on to Ryan Cornish.
Good evening. How are you guys doing?
Good, thank you.
I submitted a letter last night, before the 24-hour period, but it was not uploaded into the Google Drive. So I'm going to read that letter right now.
Mr. Cornish, if I may have your address first.
Sorry, I live at 21 Good Hill Road.
Thank you.
I'm concerned about the ability of emergency vehicles to access the building at number 9. Due to the setback, the large distance of the setback, if there's ever an obstruction on the entrance to the facility, it's going to make it extremely difficult to reach the building in any kind of emergency situation. A number of the other affordable housing projects in Bethel have a much closer proximity to the main road and make that access much, much easier. In terms of pedestrian traffic, if there is an affordable housing unit put on Good Hill and people are intending to walk to and from town, it's roughly a mile to get to anything resembling town, a little bit more to the train station, something like that. Good Hill Road is on the wider side, but it's a dead-end road. Good Hill directly intersects with Taylor Avenue, which is maybe one of the narrowest roads in Bethel. Any foot traffic on this road is already extremely dangerous because there's such a heavy traffic pattern, as some of the other residents have already stated. And if you add another 20 plus cars from 11 units, you're only going to make these risks go up exponentially. In terms of the water lines, I believe Barry Parfit, Rich Garrity, and Mark Teague have already voiced their concerns regarding the blasting, but I really want to emphasize that due to the ground, the nature of the soil around Good Hill Road, it's extremely rocky. I know in the Wetlands Committee, the applicant had said he was not going to need to blast, but just due to the nature of the soil around, it's going to be almost impossible. The other big issue that I have, the last thing about the blasting is every house on Good Hill has well water, and that was also already addressed. But again, the well water issue is a huge concern with any kind of blasting that has to happen. The biggest thing for me is the lighting issue. If you drive by the previously mentioned application at 49 Taylor, there's 24-hour lighting. And where that building is, where it's kind of on the border of residential and commercial properties, it doesn't stand out that much. Good Hill is a very private, quiet road. And when you add 24-hour lighting, which will affect literally up to 11 houses due to the location of the proposed building, it completely ruins any ambiance on the road, and all of the surrounding houses will have to suffer dealing with that lighting. I know there's proposed trees to grow in, but that's 8-10 years down the road unless you put in gigantic trees to start with, which the cost is too prohibitive for that to happen. And also in the wetlands meeting, the lighting was a concern. It got, I believe, very prematurely passed over, but the lighting is a massive, massive issue that we would like to see addressed and not happen in the neighborhood. Thank you, Pat.
Thank you very much. David, I'd like to go back to Rich Mold, because if you can unmute him, we'll be able to hear him.
Okay. Rich Mould.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Not sure what the issue was. I apologize for that. Rich Mold, 10 Good Hill Road, and I appreciate you letting me speak. Look, I'm going to repeat a few things that have already been said. This is a neighborhood of 4-bedroom homes, all recent builds for the most part. The character of this neighborhood is in serious jeopardy. We all built homes in this, worked very hard to afford homes in this area. And now we're talking about an 11-unit affordable housing project just dumped in an area because the developer feels there's space to do it. There is no sidewalks. There is no public water going to this location, and you have to pump it up a hill just to get it there. You are on a very, very narrow street with Taylor, with far too many cars coming up and down it, and trucks trying to, and often getting stuck. The blasting that is going to be required, I promise you, this whole street is ledge. We all have property here. It is ledge. He will have to blast. It will affect wells. It will affect foundations. How will you compensate and take care of all the neighbors that this ends up affecting? I also want to ask, when our property values go down, and please, nobody on this call can reasonably tell me that Mark Teague's house is not going to significantly decline in value, who will protect him? You guys, as elected officials of this town, have a responsibility to protect its citizens, its taxpayers. And we have people on this street that are going to see a significant loss in their home value. And I want to know how I'll be protected. I will be across the street from this. I also want to just comment. I get that it's an 830G. That doesn't make it right for this location. It doesn't make it right. Please, when you see this site walk, you will see this is the wrong location for anything like this. My neighbor up the street, the Cornishes, talked about the fire trucks. Look at the size of this building. You will need 3 fire trucks in here, not 1. That 1 fire truck will come in and back out. What about the other 2 to 3 that are going to be needed if this thing goes ablaze? I beg of you, please, as residents of Good Hill, we all know this project is in the wrong location. It is disruptive to our community and to our town. We ask you, as the neighbors of Good Hill Road, please reject this application. Thank you.
Thank you,
I
Ms.
just want to
Mold.
speak as well. As Allison Mold, it's the same hand being raised.
Yes.
Allison Mold, 10 Good Hill Road. I just wanted to state for the record that there is a substantial public interest in this application for number 9 Good Hill Road. A petition has been submitted to Mr. Knickerbocker and to the P&Z Commission stating our list of concerns regarding this application. The large concerns that we have, the overarching concerns, have to do with the environment, public safety, and the zoning. You can read all of those concerns in the petition. There are over 200 signatures on this petition asking this commission to decline this application. And I urge this commission to please read it and please decline this applicant's application based on our reasons. And of course, we agree, or I agree with everything my husband just said, as well as all of our neighbors on the street. This is the wrong place for this application and for this construction.
Thank you, Allison. Just to let you know, that petition is in our Google files.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Cornish, if I could just say one thing to you. You may not have been on when Beth indicated, when we say we have to have information in 24 hours prior to our meeting, what we're going to let people know is that the office closes on 4:30, at 4:30. So anything coming in after 4:30 will not be seen until the next day. So unfortunately, I believe what you sent in, your letter came in after 4:30, which is why you're not seeing it. David, is there
Yes,
anyone else?
we have one more hand raised, and that is for Christian Duran.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Hi, thanks. This is Kristen Duran. I live at 12 Good Hill Road, and I would like to read a statement that I wrote for the record. Per the outlined concerns on the Good Hill Road petition that Allison Mold just spoke about, which is posted on the Google Drive, Good Hill Road, Taylor Avenue, and Nashville Road all have insufficient road infrastructure. Road safety is a major concern on Good Hill, Taylor, and the corner of Nashville. It's a big concern. My question is, does the town have a copy of a conducted traffic study of Taylor Avenue, which is the road perpendicular to the bottom of Good Hill? A report like this, this type of report data analysis should be indicative of, pre-COVID traffic patterns, which should include but not be limited to bus routes and stops, daily route travels, rush hour traffic, and oversized truck travel, even though despite the road regulations against such vehicles traversing on Taylor Avenue are there, they travel our road all the time, as we've had the sign replaced multiple times at the intersection of Nashville and Taylor. The traffic already on these roads have increased due to the building of number 49 Taylor Avenue complex that was recently built by the same builder. In addition to the above, to all those outlined concerns, the construction of number 9 Good Hill, the 11 unit, 22 parking spaces plus 3 handicap parking spaces, which could potentially be more due to occupants, visitors, service vehicles, will double the number of vehicles traveling on Good Hill daily, which causes major safety concerns. Rich Garrity had touched upon this, especially in regards to school children who walk to designated bus stops on Good Hill and the intersection of Taylor and Nashville, and those that are standing there waiting for the bus, as cars kind of use Taylor Road as a raceway to get to downtown area. Another comment in regards to safety, Barry had brought this up, which is a good point in regards to snow removal when we have winter storms. How will the parking lot of 25 cars be maintained and plowed, during inclement weather? Are these cars going to be parked on the road while the lot is cleared? Good Hill is a steep hill. As you come down the hill, it becomes kind of treacherous to stop. And if you have 25 cars or so lined up and parked at the base of the hill, there's going to be problems and accidents. I personally have skidded all the way down the hill on ice and snow. So I'm very concerned about that. To avoid a very lengthy statement, I just want to add that I completely agree with what my other neighbors have already spoken about in regards to the devaluation of the properties, blasting emergency vehicles. I urge the commission to please thoroughly review all these concerns and comments on this application and to make the right decision. Thank you. These are my comments for the record.
Thank you, Kristen. David, are you seeing anyone else?
Rich Mould again?
Yes, Mr. Mould.
Yes, I just had one thing that I forgot to ask, and I apologize. So look, I'm sorry, Rich Mould, 10 Good Hill Road for the record. So look, we went through a whole wetlands thing on this, and I have to say, and actually the attorney for the town just said it, this map has changed. I can't even count it on 2 hands. This map has changed 10 to 12 times. The number of reconfigurations, all this tells me is that we're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It doesn't work here. And I wanted to make sure I brought that up because there just seems something really wrong that you can't get it right on the second try or third try. You need 10 submissions of a map. What is happening with the suggestion of this development? That's what I want to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mold.
Mark Teague again.
Yes, Mark.
Hi, this is Dina Teague. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi. Dina Teague, 11 Good Hill Road for the record. I just want to read something that I had wrote and I haven't had the chance to read. So basically, I have to start by thanking you all for acknowledging that this is the utmost hardest application I bet you ever had to deal with. It is unfair that my kids are going to be the ones that will suffer the most. I moved to Bethel 5 years ago to have a good life for my two small active boys, age 3 and age 6, and a good school system, of course. A backyard was the top of my list, though, when we were looking to purchase a home. When we bought the property behind us, it was basically abandoned. The property basically surrounds our home. Mark, my husband, chose to take care of it. Moving forward, we found out that the land was purchased. It seemed odd that there was not even any for sale sign in the front of the lawn. How's this? We would not have any issue if we were just told, like we were said, it was just going to be 1 or 2 family homes back there, but only to find out that plans were changed and 11 apartment buildings that would go up instead. Not only apartment buildings, but a development complex with a parking lot, 16-foot lighting poles, garbage trucks, in and out. I mean, the list goes on. Eventually, we want to extend our property line as it goes back more than we're enjoying now. A pool maybe, but now we can't. This is a cul-de-sac and a single family home only on this road. The location is not substantial between the infrastructure, water table, and traffic. And most importantly, safety for my kids with multiple cars going in and out. The bus stop, the list goes on. I mean, we are 10 feet away from all of this, 10 feet. Also, would the houses on this road go down in value? I bet. Well, can you answer that? Ruin the character of our neighborhood? I bet. Are my taxes going down? I don't know about that. $9,500 we pay now. They're all beautiful colonial homes that we take pride in with genuinely good, working, good people. If it had made the front page of the News Times numerous times, it clearly telling you something. This is not the place for an 11-unit apartment building with 24-hour lighting. Come on now. This is surrounding my home, my dream home. My son's school slogan is all about being kind. Well, clearly, when we bought this house, this is not what we signed up for. I won't give up the fight as I should have a voice in this. This is surrounding my world. I can only ask one question. Would you like this if it was literally in your backyard? Be kind. Dina Teague, number 11. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Dina. David, are you seeing anyone else?
Next, we have iPhones, iPhone 203-417-2012.
Who is that?
When they identify
That's
themselves
Jim
for the record, we'll find
my,
out.
My name is Jim Quish at 3 Good Hill Road.
I'm sorry, your last name is again, Jean?
My name is Jim Quish,
Oh, Jim, okay.
Q-U-I-S-H,
Thank
at
you.
3 Good Hill Road.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us speak tonight. One of the things they were talking about is they're going to have no decks on the back of this project. There's no recreation area. So if they're all 2 and 3 residents in each one of these units, where are all these people going to congregate, you know, on a nice day like this? There's no grass, there's no play area, there's no decks. So they're going to be on the road or hanging out in the parking lot or on the retaining wall behind Mark's house. You know, that's a concern. There's no walkways. It's just the road. This whole project is well over your normal zoning for acreage for any type of an apartment complex of over 4 units. From what I've read, why can't the builder just build 1 or 2 single family homes on that reasonable size lot? You know, it doesn't make any sense to put this big, huge thing behind someone's house. If he would just put 1 or 2 or have a duplex, you know, I know we won't make as much money rent-wise, which will probably be $200,000 or $300,000 a year from this project. But I'm sorry, you know. I mean, hey, it is what it is. I mean, have a heart. You live in this town all your life, and you know, I don't know why you're doing this to your neighbors that you grew up with. It's really ridiculous. Then points of egress, I really haven't seen too much indication that behind the building there's going to be a safe egress. If there's no decks from the top floor, if kids are up there, how are they getting out? Also, any kind of ADA regulations for any kind of handicapped individuals that might move in. Are they going to be able to get into these units? Is there elevators, that type of thing? Will you have to supply a pump house to push the water up the hill? Because I've heard over the time that I've been researching this that when Costa Sturgis wanted to and King wanted to put water on this road for all of the residents when they were building, that they were shot down, and there wasn't enough pressure with the current system in place to possibly feed water up to all those houses, let alone 11 affordable housing apartments. So I don't know how you're going to do that. That's going to destroy Frank's well, my well, Mark's well, Manny and Scott's well, and so forth, with all that water and digging and blasting a possibility from what you're seeing with the plans. So and all the, like the other people have said, the snow removal, where's that going to be put? We've had some big snowstorms in this area over the years, and our road, when it's high snow content, you can't see to begin with out of your driveway, let alone having 22 cars coming out the first third of this road, flying out of there. We all have kids that are going down to the bus stops, like other people have reiterated. And then, Taylor is a really short stop. I mean, you got to kind of creep out to just get out onto that road without people blowing up it. So with another 22 cars coming and going, all times of the hour, all hours of the night, where are these residents going to actually be able to live their lives? Because there's nowhere to go in this plan, except for our front yards or our backyards or hanging out in the road. It's a big concern. I'm a father of 3 daughters, and I never have to worry about this road, but now I'm going to. And it's not about race or religion or anything like that. It's just too many people in a small amount of area that shouldn't be there. I mean, Tim, build a 1 or 2 bedroom, 1 or 2 family house back there and help a family start a life affordable, not having them rent and never get out of there and just make money for yourself. That's what it all boils down to. I'm really sorry to say, but it's sickening. So that's all I have to say. I thank you for your time, and I really hope you shoot this thing down. It's just ridiculous. It really is. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Quish. David?
Next we have a Frankie V. Frankie V.
Frankie, are you unmuted?
Yeah, I think so. Can you hear me?
You can now. Frankie,
Yes.
what is your last name?
It's Frank Conti, and I'm at 5 and number 7 Good Hill, directly adjacent to the proposed building project.
Thank you.
Speaking on behalf of my wife and myself, Maria Stella. One of the biggest concerns, and it mirrors what everybody else has said so far, is the volume of traffic going in and out. That long driveway runs adjacent to our property. We'll be getting a bird's eye view of everyone going in and out each and every day from our living room. The lighting along the roadway is a concern as far as light spillage goes, noise, fumes from vehicles because of the concentration going through that area. Our well is at the rear of our property on the left, adjacent to the proposed construction site. So I'm wondering what impact all of that groundwater all the water that's going to be introduced into the ground by that retention system they've proposed. And the blasting's an issue if they do go ahead with blasting. I just think it's going to devalue our property immensely. This is a single family, neighborhood, and it's just way too much of a concentration of people and vehicles into such a tight space. I think, let's see, what else was I going to say? Sorry, bear with me a moment. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. And along with all the comments that, our friends and neighbors have said, they stand as well. It's just too much of a density of people and too tight a space for the road to handle, safety factors. We don't have children, but everyone else does. And we can definitely understand the concern there. That's pretty much it. Thank you for letting me comment.
Thank you, Mr. Conti.
Okay. I'm just going to reiterate one last time. If there's anyone else who would wish to provide public comment, please use the raise hand function, which is available by clicking next to your name in the participants tab. That's at the bottom, in the bottom toolbar of the Zoom app. That would be the way for which we recognize that you have public comment that you wish to offer. We have a BJ Liberty.
We do.
Hi, BJ.
Hi. BJ Liberty, 8 Grand Street. I realize that the fire marshal has gone over this plan and given it his blessing, but I'm concerned also about the 8-foot drop at the rear of the building. If you have somebody who's handicapped, are they going to be able to get out of that window? I assume it's a window. Is there going to be furniture? Is it going to be a high window so that there's furniture blocking the access? Can you get multiple fire trucks, an ambulance? Are they all going to be able to have access and get people out if they need to be gotten out? Okay, that's it.
Thanks, BJ. David, are you seeing anyone else?
I am not at this time.
Okay, Beth, I'm going to pose a question to you. I know this was an informational meeting for us. Do you want to take commission questions on both of these applications tonight, and Neil can come back at end of July with answers, or do you want us to hold our questions until the end?
Well, we
next meeting. I shouldn't say the end, the next meeting.
We already continued the last hearing.
Okay.
So as far as the last hearing, I think it would be difficult to do questions.
Okay.
My suggestion would be is that you email us to prepare questions for the next meeting.
Okay, perfect.
Put your thoughts together.
Okay, perfect.
One thing before we close out tonight's meeting, there was 2 things I wanted to talk about. One is the site walk and the information that you may require or would like to see. And there was just 2 issues that I wanted to bring up, and you guys can agree or disagree in regards to 9 Good Hill Road. And I think, Barry, are you still on? Barry's still here.
I'm going to unmute him to...
Yes, I'm still
Maybe
here.
Barry can help me with this. I think it would be important for the commission to see there's changes in elevations that are proposed. There's some filling that's occurring on this property for development. I think it would be helpful to the commission to see, is it a cross-section, Barry? Meaning with the proposed elevations that are raised, showing the height of the structure that's going to be behind the teak house, in order to get a clearer indication of the relationship between the 2 properties.
Mm-hmm.
Do you understand what I mean? Cross-section, I mean, to me, a cross-section road. In this instance, I think it would be very helpful for a visual impact to see if there is any negative impact to the adjoining property owners.
Sure.
Property owner as far as health, safety, or welfare.
Sure. I think that would be a good thing to see. A cross-section, yes, that would go through I would say, maybe east-west cross-section through 11 Good Hill Road and 9 Good Hill Road property, kind of all the way out to Good Hill Road, to see the profile of the proposed and existing structures, That would really go along with the, I think, tie in with the excavation and fill request, because then we would see the depth of excavation or fill because of, I would assume there's been geotechnical borings done for the bearing capacity of the building. Got to figure out how far down do you need to go to get to suitable material for the building foundation. And also seeing the detention system on that profile would be good too, and how that relates to the fill and retention walls. So yeah, I think that would be very helpful and relate to that comment about excavation and fill.
Okay. And possibly that could be done before the site walk takes place. And we can work that out with the applicant. Neil?
Yeah, I'm not sure I understood. You want to get a cross section, and then I missed what are we doing a cross section of? Barry, can you?
Sure. Cross section, east-west cross section through 9 Good Hill Road and through 11 Good Hill Road out to the road. That would give us a profile of the existing elevation as shown on the maps that were submitted and proposed elevations, where the parking lot retaining walls, where the proposed buildings are, the height, that, and kind of help us to see how much fill, where the extent of the fill or excavation that's proposed. So that's how it ties into that comment.
But also in regards to that though, showing, what I'm really looking for is the structure itself in regards to the elevations of the adjoining property owners. You understand? It's a 2-story building, a 2.5-story building on top of a 4 to 6 foot layer of fill. So my question is that second floor, when this gentleman in front goes out his back door, will he be seeing the second floor of the structure as he leaves his back door?
Yeah, so the existing building could be shown as when that's added to the survey, that would be on this profile, and then show the proposed building as well. That would give us a visual of how they sit vertically on a profile cut.
It's similar to what we do in the TOD zone with some of the units that are proposed. So you can actually get a visual as far as the structure in relation to its surroundings.
Yeah, I understand what you're looking for. I'm just not sure how that relates to the criteria of public health and safety. I mean, I know what you're.
I can expound on that if you want.
So for example, if you know today from Mike Pizzuco's plan where the first floor elevation is, and you know today the height of the building from that point up 35 feet, let's say. And then you look at the Teague house, you know, I mean, you can figure out where their first floor elevation is and the height of their house. And then, I mean, then you can figure out, is one going to be higher than the other? And where, if you're standing on the Teague's roof, are you going to be level with the building behind, vice versa? I mean, all that's interesting, but what's it prove? I mean, you know, I'm just trying to figure out why we're doing it.
Okay, I think that what I'm looking for is to just ensure that there are no concerns with lighting, things of that nature that would affect the property located in the front. I think it's easier for the commission to get an actual visual on where the building will fall in relation to the Teague property as far as the actual Teague structure. When I looked at it as a layman, I had some concerns. So that's why I'm asking the engineer to just try to show us, I keep calling it a cross-section, Neil, and I apologize. Being a layman, I can't.
You want a perspective, an elevation, the elevation of perspective. I understand.
That works.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, a poor explanation of what I'm looking for.
Well, no, I'm just, as I said, the two of you were talking, I'm saying, what exactly, because I think of a cross-section in a different sense.
I do too.
I think I understand what you're looking for. Okay. The other, yeah, and in terms of lighting, I mean, Beth, I think your question there is a little different, and that's a legitimate question that's been raised this evening about the impact of the lighting plan. And that a lot of that has to do with the type of lighting fixtures. And you're right, the height of the lighting fixtures as it impacts, for example, the Teague residents and I guess the other residents.
The Conti residents.
Conti, yeah, those are the two that are directly impacted. We'll look at that. I mean, I understand what the public comments are. As I say, to the extent that somebody thought I was trying to tell the public not to comment on that, that's not what I was saying. I was saying that we would focus our presentation on what we think of the statutory issues. We certainly can't stop the public, but I didn't want them to say, well, you know, the applicant didn't get into land values, because again, that's not a statutory issue. I agree that there could be an issue of values, and I can't tell you that the public is saying this isn't going to affect my values. It may, but the problem from our perspective is, or the problem from the public's perspective is that 8-30G really is oblivious to that. I mean, to tell you that I've read every case decided under 8-30G, and the issue of values is not an issue. The legislature just didn't consider that at all. And just, I'll finish up without going on a high horse. But in the earlier application, we didn't answer a question when one lady said, how do you build, and it was here too, how do you build 11 units on 1.5 acres of land in a 1 acre zone? And the answer to that isn't going to come from the commission. The answer to that's in the legislature. That's who decided this. And again, you know, I've been defending you guys for years, and I'm never tired of doing it. But to the extent that the public thinks that the commission created this, it didn't. You know, it's done by the state legislature. And I'll expound on that a little bit when I answer the questions. But to suggest that somehow this commission has done something that's allowed the applicant to make this application is just wrong. It's not this commission.
I thank you, Neil, for your comments in regards to that, and totally agree with you. And I'm sure we will both be addressing that in coming public hearings. Pat, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, so I'm sorry, Oakwoods LLC, 11 units, 9 Good Hill Road will be continued to July 28th. And if I may have a motion to adjourn.
Excuse me, Pat, just technical thing since Neil is here. Neil, as far as the site walk with Shelley Road, do you want some indication? I neglected to give you some indication as to what the commission may want to see, just for a starter point, so you can discuss it with your applicant to ensure that if I ask for example, the center line of the access road or something to be staked, check with your client to make sure it could be done before the 18th or 19th so we can do that.
Yeah, I'll get back to you on that, Beth. But I mean, clearly, every time we do a site walk, there's certain points you have to put out so people just know where they are. And
I just want to make sure. I just want to make sure he has enough time. That's all.
Okay, I'll let you know. There's no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Pat. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Again, if I may have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Penny. Second, please.
Second, Bob Legnard.
Thank you, Bob. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for your time and patience. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.